What's up, everybody? How you doing today? I I want to know where you personally, as a human, would draw the line between nature and man. This has always been something that's bugged me, and it's funny I haven't made a video about it sooner because I think about it like all the time. But I guess that's probably because I needed to process it more. Where does the division between natural beauty and man's beauty part ways in the sense of art? We can carve out entire valleys in the name of progress, and it's considered destructive. Nature can have a flash flood and devastate entire colonies, groups of mammals, and eliminate entire ecosystems and carve out beautiful, beautiful landscapes in the process. Even glaciers, in other words, a very slow glacial descent can be a beautiful thing, but it can also be a destructive thing. It is destroying the rocks, it's destroying the landscape. And one might say that that's not a comparison because, well, humans have the ability and the consciousness, the ability to make a decision. So I guess my question would be, I agree with that statement. What is the decision we should make on nature? On how to go about making things fit nature? You know, man's been trying to put his cities back into that natural setting, as if, you know, the new green building trying to fit in with the environment. But what does that really mean? Often that's just something as dumb as painting a house green or, having more trees in the yard. But we're still living in structures that are made by man. Now, when I go out and I see giant anthills out in the desert, or a beaver dam that's completely blocking a river, go out into the forest and see all the trees that the beavers chop down and think, what is the purpose of this? I'm really glad that I thought about the beavers, because that's something that I was just thinking about the other day. I was watching this show and just thinking, man, they go to town, they build these monstrous dams, and there's got to be an easier way to catch fish, kind of thing. In other words, there's dual purpose in everything, and multiple purpose, not just dual purpose. I look at the way that insects and animals destroy nature on a small scale, and I think about the way that we do it on a major scale, in a faster pace. But I ask, is that any less valid? Because us as natural creatures, here we are, and we're doing what we're doing. In other words, what we might consider a mistake, excuse me, a mistake in the way that we do business may not be a mistake. It brings me back to the old George Carlin joke about, why are humans here? We're here to make plastic. And it was one of the funniest things ever that I heard. Like, the old joke, maybe nature put us here to destroy ourselves, that sounds defeatist, and I don't necessarily believe that. I'm just throwing out ideas here. I don't know why humanity does the things that we do, and I've wondered why we evolved a consciousness at all, because I've looked into evolution and reasons for mutations. I don't necessarily believe the random mutation. I believe that there's a purposefully driven system, but I don't necessarily think that, I guess, genetic mutations are going to bring us something like consciousness. It's a very strange thing. It's something difficult to explain, something we don't know how to really define. I mean, is consciousness, elephants who mourn their dead, are they conscious? What is consciousness? Is it the ability to reason? And since we have this ability, why were we given it? Because I'll tell you something, the way I see it is it's a detriment to humanity to have consciousness. In other words, as if the planet as a whole wants to survive, it has ways to alter the environment to fix problems. And humanity, being conscious like we are, seem to be a problem. We seem to be a scourge on this planet. But when one looks at it deep enough, you start to ask the question, are we here to reset something? It kind of this kind of stems from Lobo's question about GMOs and whether or not, the plants are, you know, asking us in a way, to modify them, or whether or not they would, nature itself is consciously driving our thoughts. Considering that we're mostly microbes and bacteria, it's not too far to say that those might be the demons, within us, the other entities that we speak of, when we talk about people possessed, not in the sense necessarily of all possessions, but it could be another metaphor, another part of that. For example, when a person has certain viruses or bacteria in them, they can go mad, and there are many different types of madness, but perhaps our consciousness is somehow driven, or at least maintained, by these bacteria, these colonies, which are, I believe, conscious because they have to function as a group. They have to work together as a team. And so I guess what I'm coming to is that if nature is conscious of us destroying it, it would be very simple to throw out a virus or a bacteria that would wipe us out in a week. And, a month, but, it wouldn't take long. That is, if the Gaian hypothesis is correct and that the Earth is conscious of us, which I believe it is. So, that leads me to my conclusion, which is that we may not be here to destroy the Earth, but we're definitely part of the Earth. That we're part of a plan, some sort of a plan. And we put ourselves down constantly about the things that we do. It's gotten to this point where people won't even walk on the path or off the path because they're afraid of damaging nature, stay on the path, erosion, and I understand that. I'm a hiker. I enjoy hiking. I enjoy going in the mountains. I totally agree with the idea of pack it in, pack it out. And, all these different ideas. I want to protect the environment, but I guess it's kind of like what exactly is protecting the environment? If we create an art piece, out in nature, is that to be frowned upon? I guess only a backpacker might understand. Like if you're out there and you come across this huge rock outcropping and this beautiful view in the middle of nowhere, and then you find that humans have carved their name in the rock. That's something that can be like, God, stupid kids. But at the same time, it's just part of who we are. It's our markings. It's just like a dog pissing on a fence or a bear scratching a tree. And I guess, that's kind of interesting. I've never really considered that until I just said it. But I guess I'm going to look at graffiti a different way now. I go out to places where I'm like, why would a person have to put their name there? But, I kind of get it. I kind of get all this, silly little things that we do as humans. But I don't understand why. And I don't understand what separates this from this. Actually, this wouldn't even be considered nature because this is a bunch of crushed lava rock, which is put in a perfect pattern, so it all matches, Everything we do is like with borders and shapes, and we try to go back to this natural state of like balance and curves, and I ask myself why, and because nature doesn't have any straight lines. It's like, well, of course it does. Nature has perfectly straight lines. It just depends on how you look at it. It's humans are creating straight lines. Every form of life is just absolutely magnificent. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, man. So what makes humans any different?